I want you to hear something.
Something else, Doris?
A very beautiful song.
America knew Doris Day as the bright smile, the clear voice, and the woman who always seemed to glide through romance with grace and good humor. On screen, she sold a dream that felt safe, polished, and almost effortless. Off-screen, her private life was far messier. Behind the hit songs, the box office success, and that famously sunny image was a woman who endured abuse, betrayal, control, and finally a financial shock that would have crushed most stars of her era. What makes her story so striking is not just that she lost millions, but that the loss came after years of trust, hard work, and the belief that the man closest to her was protecting her future. And since this story is all about love, money, and heartbreak, tell us in the comments which Doris Day era you remember best: the singer, the movie star, or the television comeback that followed when Doris Day went broke after her husband died. The image.
I don't care about my image. I don't even know what it is. I just feel that everyone has a story. Everyone here in this room has a story. You have a story.
For a generation of moviegoers, Doris Day represented a very particular kind of Hollywood magic. She was wholesome without being dull, glamorous without seeming distant, and successful in both music and film at a level few performers ever reached. By the 1950s and 60s, she was not just popular, she was one of the biggest female stars in America. That success had been hard-won. Born Doris Mary Ann Kappelhoff in Cincinnati, she first dreamed of becoming a dancer. A terrible car accident shattered that pain, and during her recovery, she discovered the singing voice that would change her life. From there came big band success, hit records, and a steady rise into films. Her screen image became one of her greatest assets. Audiences saw someone reliable, cheerful, and warm. Even when she moved into more mature romantic comedies, the public still viewed her as the woman who would somehow make everything turn out all right in the end. That image, though, hid a private life that was often painful. The contrast between Doris Day the star and Doris Day the woman is what makes the financial disaster later in life feel even more shocking. The public saw security. The reality was far more fragile. Early wounds.
Can we talk about your three marriages, which were very much of a disappointment to you, as you describe in the book?
Sure. Would you like to do that?
Yes, I would.
Okay.
You described it in the book, especially the first marriage was not only a disappointment, but there was a great deal of sadness attached to it.
It was horrendous.
Long before the money vanished, Doris Day had already lived through deeply unhappy marriages. Her first husband, musician Al Jordan, entered her life when she was still very young. The marriage quickly turned frightening. Reports from later accounts described violence, jealousy, and abuse so severe that even her pregnancy was not spared. That first marriage left more than emotional scars. It introduced her to a pattern that would repeat itself in different forms, where the men around her often tried to control her life, her home, or her career. Jordan was violent. Others would be manipulative, unfaithful, or financially reckless. Her second husband, George Weidler, was not remembered as abusive in the same way, but the marriage still unraveled. He reportedly resented the role of stepfather and struggled with her growing fame. Infidelity and strain ended that union too. By the time she married producer and agent Marty Melcher in 1951, Doris wanted stability. After 2 failed marriages, it made sense she'd hoped the third time had finally brought her something lasting. For a while, that was exactly how it seemed. Marty's control.
He was throwing me around in that. And I think he picked me up, grabbed me and picked me up, and he broke a rib.
Marty Melcher looked, from the outside, like the man who brought order to her life. He was connected, ambitious, and closely involved in her career. Their marriage lasted far longer than the first two, and because of that, many assumed it must have been the safe harbor she'd been looking for. But stability can be deceptive. Over time, Marty became deeply involved in steering her career toward projects that promised large paydays. Doris was working constantly, but according to later accounts, she was not truly in control of the business side of what she was building. Decisions were being made around her and, in some cases, for her. There were also strains inside the household. Her son Terry reportedly had a difficult relationship with Marty, and accounts suggest that the tension between them grew serious enough to create a lasting divide. So even inside the marriage that lasted the longest, peace was not as complete as it seemed. Still, Doris trusted him. That trust is the key to everything that happened next. She believed the man managing so much of her life was safeguarding what she had earned through decades of work. Instead, the structure beneath her was rotting without her knowing it. The collapse.
We had a correspondence courtship. And it's not good.
No, I know.
I don't recommend it.
No, I know one girl had one and married the mailman. Very risky to do that kind of thing.
And you really don't get to know a man that way. I was traveling, and he was traveling with the band, and all of a sudden we decided to get married, and we didn't really know each other, and it was very bad.
When Marty Melcher died in 1968, Doris Day was not simply grieving a husband. She was about to discover that the financial world she thought was secure had collapsed. The woman who had earned millions through records, films, and endorsements was suddenly told much of that fortune was gone. The numbers were staggering. Her fortune, once estimated at around $20 million, had effectively disappeared, and in its place was heavy debt, including a major tax burden. Worse still, money had reportedly been borrowed against future earnings, including songs not yet recorded and work she had not even agreed to do herself. That included the most bitter surprise of all. Without properly consulting her, Marty had committed her to a television series. Doris Day did not want to go into television at that point. She was grieving, exhausted, and in no shape to begin a new chapter. Yet the contract was there, and the advance had already been spent. It's hard to overstate how humiliating and disorienting this must have felt. Doris Day had been one of the most bankable women in Hollywood, and suddenly she was learning that success on paper meant very little if someone else had been draining the well the whole time. Fighting back.
Are you going to see him personally, sir?
No, you are.
Me? Oh, Mr. Nicholson, I'm just a secretary.
The reason Doris Day did not disappear after that shock is simple. She worked. She moved forward because she had to. The Doris Day Show was not born from a carefree career pivot. It was, in large part, a financial necessity. She stepped into television to deal with the wreckage left behind. That decision changed the public story of her life. Instead of becoming a tragic, cautionary tale, she became something tougher. The sitcom ran successfully for 5 seasons, proving that even after betrayal and financial damage, she still had the ability to connect with audiences and carry a major production. She also took legal action against Jerome Rosenthal, the attorney and advisor tied to the financial disaster. Doris eventually won a major judgment, though collecting the full value was another matter. Even victory in court could not easily restore what had already been lost in practice, time, and trust. What remains so striking is that her comeback was built under pressure, not comfort. She didn't return because she was chasing one more spotlight. She returned because she'd been cornered. And in that corner, the woman so often remembered for sweetness showed real steel. After all of it, Doris Day lived many more years, turned much of her attention to animal welfare, and kept a distance from the kind of Hollywood machine that had taken so much from her. But the reason she went broke after her husband died was not mystery or misfortune alone. It was betrayal hidden inside marriage, business, and trust. Now it's time to hear from you. When you look at Doris Day's life, what do you think was the saddest part of her story? Abusive early marriages, betrayal over her money, or the fact that so much of her private pain stayed hidden behind that cheerful image? Let us know in the comments section below.